Starter motor rebuild is fairly simple. In most cases, actually, I find that it's not actually a rebuild, it's more like a cleanup, because nothing new is going to be built into this, or no parts of this starter motor needed replacement here. This was just full of water and oil, and as the brushes wear away, the carbon deposits were clogging up here these lines between the commutator segments, and in most cases this just needs a cleanup, so it's nice and shiny inside, and that's all. So that's not really a rebuild, it's more like a cleanup. Another reason for servicing your own starter motor is you don't have parts available for it. In most cases, the parts that are available, you're gonna have to make them work for you. For example, brushes. Here are some new brushes, not for this model. I'm gonna show you why they won't work ever for this model, even if you cut the wire shorter. Parts that are available, you have to really work to make them fit. So new starters are not available. Dealers often just replace the whole starter motor as one unit, and it costs you $400 just for a new starter. And like I said, 8 out of 10 cases, usually they just need a really good cleanup. And we'll get back to maintaining electrical separation and that concept in a sec. Just finish these carbon brushes here. Maybe come down a little bit and have a better view. There, that's more like it. Just tilt it. There we go. And a little closer. And that's what I'm talking about. Okay. The brushes, you can see there's manufacturer would specify that the length of the brush should be 55 millimeters or longer, or whatever they actually specify, but and this one is shorter, but to get a new brush you can't. Look at this one here. This is somehow welded or soldered or brazed onto the base plate. I don't know if you can get a really good view on it there. And unless you are set up for brazing copper onto mild steel successfully, so that it's solid and conductive and everything, I don't think so. I wouldn't try it. And if you want to try to bolt anything together, you have to really be watching electrical separation. And this is what I mean, where the bolt on this one comes in. This is connected to the positive terminal on the battery, so it comes in there, and electricity is supplied to this brush and this brush here through these wires there that you can see. Some of them are in the shade, I admit. And from then the commutator will be also energized, and the rest of the remainder 2 brushes, and these sleeves that hold and house the brushes are sitting on a plastic, PVC or Bakelite or some kind of hard plastic insulator. Here, take a look at it from, yeah, that's a good view. Okay, and you can see they are riveted through, but the rivets on the other side, you can see the base material is cut away, so the rivets that hold the sleeves for the brushes are separated totally from the base plate. The base plate is the negative side, is connected to the ground, and the brushes would be the positive side. And also this bolt doesn't touch and is separated by multiple layers of insulators. And there's also one more plastic ring that's really hard to see, but there is a flap for it. So electrical separation You have to maintain it, because otherwise your starter won't work, because it's finicky. That's where water is shorting the circuits at, but it's not really shorting because you are not burning through fuses. It'll just stop working on you. Okay, let me just get these out of the way. Oh, one more thing. So to make these brushes work, you can see how they slide up and down in the sleeve. You can see this sleeve is cut away to allow movement for the wire, and also cut away on the other side to allow movement for the spring. There we go. And technically these brushes could be worn down all the way to this point here. Just a sec. There, all the way to this point where the cable goes into the brush. There. But at this length they fall out of the sleeve because the spring is pushing them forward, and the sleeve is not too long forward, and they don't reach the commutator. This one, they won't reach the commutator, and they just drop out and fall out. They don't fall down to the ground because they are held in place, held by a wire, but they're gonna be not connecting to anything, and they're gonna be not conducting electricity. So to put everything back together, I just need 4 pieces of sheet metal garbage, like so, and I'm gonna have to disconnect the spring power so it stops pushing the brush forward, and I'm gonna insert this spacer here that exerts pressure now on the now the spring exerts pressure on this spacer, and the brush is staying in place, so I don't have to fight it when the armature is being placed here. Same for this one. Grab a piece of sheet metal, anything. Make it thin though, thin gauge, okay? Like that. And for the next 2, I'm gonna have to place it inside the starter. The starter body. Okay, you can see 2 notches on this one on this side and another notch on the other side. That's where these wires on the left and right side will go. Let me just clean up a little grease there. Okay, and you can also see, last thing, tabs on this base plate. Tabs are bent down. There, tab 1, 2 and 3 and 4, and those tabs should line up with notches on the inside. So I don't know if it's gonna go in this way or it's gonna go in 180 degrees around. I'll just try it this way, see how this works. And this base plate should be sitting flush, which it is. That's good. Base plate now is sitting flush on the, just come up a little bit, you can see better this way. Okay, now I need to also do the same thing with these brushes and their springs. So I put a little piece of vinyl siding there, disconnecting the spring, and the last one should go in there, and another piece of sheet metal there. Okay, I've got all these, sorry guys, I got all this in place. So and the base plate is nice and flush everywhere around the starter motor body, so we are good to go for the commutator and the armature. Let's see. It's coming through there, and when it's through, you can take out your spacers. Clip, 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 and clip. and the brushes are in place. Just making sure that the base plate is nice and flush, which it is. Okay, don't forget the seal. Seal goes on it like so. And last but not least, check that the spring ends, let's just, there we go, that the spring ends are seated nicely at the ends of the brushes. That's 2, that's 3 out of 4. The spring ends are neatly seated, and 4 out of 4. Okay, you can see I also greased up the ends of the armature shaft and the front end as well. Here is the cover plate. I have 3 washers placed in this one on top of another. They typically stack in the order of thinnest, thickest, thinnest again. Okay, there's no 2 thinnest, but there's 2 thin ones and 1 thicker ones, and the thick one is should be sandwiched between the 2 thin ones. Again, electrical separation and friction issues. On this housing, you can see this groove here that should meet up with this tab that's bent out of the plate here. There's only 1 tab on the whole thing. Okay, so you can't miss that one, but make sure you don't miss that one when it's assembled also properly. The position markers, those 2 whiskers, whiskers should line up. So that's for the lower end. For the upper end, with the larger diameter washers, I also have them 1, 2 and 3 here, and they are also placed in the same sequence, thin, chunky, thin, same way. And to close it off, we're gonna need this plate that I also cleaned and lubricated. Now this one has a visible obvious notch, and that notch should line up with that little bump in the casing here. So they just go together like so. Nice and easy. So far so good, and we can spin it and it should move fairly freely with low resistance, although you're spinning magnets, so there should be some force, or you should always meet some resistance. Now for the reduction gear assembly, I'm just doing a quickie hand wipe here. I assembled everything already with the smaller cork wheels, and this ring also comes out. I don't want to much take it out, but you can see it kind of comes out. And on this one there is a notch as well, and that notch should line up with that little index pin there. The index pin also comes out. If you ever lose it, just cut another one from a nail with a pair of pliers. On this seal there is a bump on it. There, I believe that's the one. There, that one. Sorry guys, let's see. There, you can see it there. I'm kind of rolling it a little bit so you can see it. It's a small one. That little bump should go where the index pin is, and just line it up like that. And when you think the bump is there, just take a second look and just check it to make sure that the bump on the seal there actually lines up with the notch. Okay. One more thing to check is this bearing is kind of leaking from the engine oil into this starter motor. That's also kind of part of the problem why this had to be taken apart and cleaned up. It is leaking a little bit because the bearing is not so good, and I'm gonna shake it this way to check out the axial play, and there shouldn't be any noise, but there is. Okay, so it's got quite a bit of axial play, and it also has radial play in it when I shake it this way. I try to steady it. I don't know if you can see it, but it moves about 0.5 millimeter too much. Okay, and finding a suitable bearing shouldn't be a problem, but again, you're gonna have to take your own measurements, and you're gonna have to find and determine a suitable bearing for that one on your own, pretty much, because most manufacturers do not have these kind of replacement parts. In the meanwhile, I'm looking for the notch again. There, I found it, and that notch should line up with that one, and they should go together. They should go together like that. There's also, to verify the assembly, there's also those two whiskers on the casing there. They do line up. Excellent. All we need to do is put these bolts back in with a screwdriver, and then hook it up to the battery and see how well it does. Just a sec on that one. Okay, give it a little spin. Most starter motors, I don't know, some starter motors do come with this reduction gear assembly at the front, and a big separator plate with the notch. Some others don't, so the head end may look different on your starter motor, and this one sits in the engine crankcase about this deep. You can kind of see a dirt line on it, and sometimes this seal leaks too. These seals are usually available, this one at the dealerships. Anything else for the starter motor, pretty much forget about it. So let me just put everything away, and we are good to go for a test ride on this starter. Okay, screwdriver there, and hooking up the cables now. Okay, black there and the red there. And the black goes there. That's for the ground. And my high-tech rotation indicator here. You shouldn't run a starter motor for more than 5 seconds, and stand clear for these sparks. Okay, let's see if it works. I think that's splendid. That's good enough for testing. Assembly verified, and the starter motor is back to functional. There, enjoy riding, guys.